Welcome to CityBeat, inside Palo Alto. I'm P.A. Moore. It's summertime. We're going to find out about summer concerts that you can attend, take the kids. Plus, we're going to also learn about walking tours in our historical areas. We'll find out from the fire department what summer hazards you should be aware of to protect your family. And we'll have our regulars, the History Corner, Trash Busters, Meet Your City Council, and lots more. Do stay with us. I'm at Lake Borunda in Foothills Park, and with me is Ranger Richard Bicknell. And Richard, what is that big machine back there?
That big machine is called an aquamog. It's a contractor who's harvesting cattails for us.
Well, tell me, why do we need to harvest cattails in a pond?
A natural part of the pond process is called eutrophication. It's the pond will eventually fill in with cattails and grasses and become a field.
So we've chosen to cut those cattails, but there must be some other methods to get rid of cattails. What are they?
Yes, there are two main methods for removing cattails. One is fire, which we want to try to avoid, and the other is using chemicals. Both of those methods have very heavy environmental impacts.
So I think that cutting seems to be a more sustainable operation here then.
Yes, absolutely. This is, despite the fact that there are two big machines out on our lake making a lot of noise, this has the least impact of all our methods.
Well, the birds don't seem to be bothered. The coots and the herons seem to be just carrying on.
As far as we can tell, the birds are not bothered by this at all. When the machines get too close, they just take wing and fly to the other end of the pond.
And you mentioned something like tons of cattails are taken out. What happens then?
Yes, the contractor has removed about 180 cubic yards of cattails. They've made 9 trips in a 20 cubic yard dump truck to the Palo Alto landfill where they're composted.
Well, that sounds great. So it's really recycling at its finest once again.
Yes, we're doing our best.
Thank you so much, Richard.
You're very welcome.
Gail Woolley is a volunteer and a board member for PAST, the Palo Alto Stanford Heritage Group. Gail, tell me, what is one of the many functions of this group?
Well, one of our many functions is to inform the people of Palo Alto about the rich historic treasures. And one of the ways we do that is to give walking tours. Professorville, downtown, College Terrace, and Homer Avenue.
Well, the city is 100 years old, but the houses, I expect, go back further than that.
Well, a little bit. The house that we're standing in front of right now, we're in Professorville, was built in 1893. So yes, it is a little more than 100 years old.
And tell me, what's distinctive about this house that I would learn, for example, if I were on the tour?
Well, we try to talk both about the architecture and about the early residents. This house was designed by the father of Burge Clark. Burge did many of our favorite houses and buildings. This was in a style that's really hard to put in one category. It has elements of colonial, and it also has elements of shingle style. The person who lived here originally was Professor Wing, who was on the first faculty at Stanford, and like many of the Stanford professors, he contributed to making Palo Alto what it is today. In other words, getting it off to a very good start. You can see the water tower beside the house, the tank house, I should say. This he shared with 3 or 4 of his neighbors, and he thought that this was not the way to go, that the city really ought to have their own municipal water system. So he and another engineering professor founded our first municipal utility.
Well, that's a fascinating story to think that it's attached to just one house. So is this the sort of information that a person would get on the tour, and how could a person get more information?
Right. Information both about architecture and the early residents. To get more information, you need to call the tour coordinator of Past Heritage, who will offer you a tour any day, Monday through Saturday, for groups of up to 10 people. Each we ask for a donation of $20 per docent, and a docent can handle about 10 people.
Super. Thanks so much. In Palo Alto, it's the trees, and I'm with Dave Sandage, who is the city's arborist when it comes to street trees. Dave, there are lots of reasons why we have street trees. Why don't you just enumerate a few of them?
Street trees are a tradition originating in northern European cities that they're used to shade the pavement and, make the climate better in that way. They articulate the landscape, the streetscape, in an architectural way to help guide and slow traffic, and they provide privacy for people across the street from each other, and just generally beauty and health by providing a living, oxygen-producing element to our environment.
And the tree behind us, for example, is an example of one of this European tradition?
That's right. It's a linden tree. This one's a little leaf linden, and it's still a good species to use in this area, so we have a number of them.
Anything particular about the linden tree, its root structure, its leaves, the flowers, it drops stuff or it doesn't?
Every tree has its good features and its bad features.
Yeah.
This one, the good features are obvious. The bad ones are sometimes it will get an aphid and a honeydew drip problem. And it attracts bees, as you might see if you look closely, so that can be a problem for people.
Okay. Well, let's go find some other trees to look at.
Okay.
Now, Dave, we're here in front of a magnolia tree, and I know there are lots of those in Palo Alto, but there's good things and bad things about trees, so tell us about the magnolia.
Well, the magnolia is our most numerous tree. We have over 4,000.
Wow.
They were planted mainly because they thrive in a wetland condition, and the usual front grass lawn is an artificial wetland, and they just love it. They suck up all the water. They have a lot of big, bulky roots that consume the lawns. Their leaves dribble all the time because they're evergreen, so you have leaves all year round. The leaves are about as convenient as having a yard full of license plates. You can't blow them, you can barely rake them.
Yeah.
So they're not popular. They're attractive from a distance, but not popular. And we've discontinued their use in the newer generations.
Okay, well then let's go look at what the next generation of tree is for the city of Palo Alto.
All right.
Okay, Dave, we've talked about some trees that were good for the city, some old-style European trees, but now let's go to the future generation of trees. So what do we have here?
This is a maple tree. It's a hybrid between a red maple and a silver maple. The idea being that it will have the better qualities of both. We're planting several new species. An ash tree that's an American ash, autumn purple American ash. We have a red oak as another one of our backbone trees. We have about 1,000 of those around town, planted over the last 20 years. So it takes a long time to evaluate a new species, and I think the new generation is well established in this neighborhood.
Now tell me, we're looking at this new generation because of certain qualities, and those qualities, roots, leaves, what are we looking at?
The primary consideration is the size and shape of the tree, how much shade it will cast.
Okay, the canopy aspect.
The canopy. The other important element is its root behavior. Does it require a lot of water? Does it have very invasive roots? And along with that, the soil type is important. You have to match the tree to the soil type. And of course, any pests or diseases or fruit problems, the litter maintenance issues are the third major element to consider.
I'm with Steve Steiger, and we're here on California Ave. California Avenue is a busy place. It's 2003. What is so significant?
Well, this is the 100th anniversary of the incorporation of the town of Mayfield, which incorporated in 1903. The town had existed from the 1850s, and in the 1920s it was swallowed up by Palo Alto when it was annexed in the mid-20s.
And I understand that there are several significant buildings here, so why don't we start with the Fine Arts and then the Burge Clark and then go to Oddfellows. So what's the story on each?
The Fine Arts Theater dates back from the 1920s, but it's actually on the site of the original Uncle Jim's Cabin, which was the original building in the town of Mayfield dating back from the 1850s. The next two buildings down is a Burge Clark designed building, which for many years was the Round Table Pizza and now is a Subway sandwich shop. And on the corner further down is the Oddfellows building, which is actually, I think, the oldest building still standing in the town of Mayfield. It dates back from around 1890. It's been severely remodeled several times since then, so you can't really see the old town building, but it is the original Oddfellows building there.
And in those days, going back to Uncle Jim's Cabin, that place had many uses. What were some of the functions that it served?
Well, when you only have one or two buildings in town, each building has to serve many different functions. Uncle Jim's Cabin was a hotel, it was a butcher shop, it was the post office, and many other things like that.
Okay, so that means that part of this area was a business district, but then was it all business or some residential?
Well, most of what we now is California Avenue, which is then called Lincoln, toward the tracks was a residential neighborhood. The business district stretched down from Main Street, or what we now call El Camino Real, to around here, and also centered on Main Street itself.
Well, but overall, why should I remember the town of Mayfield if it was incorporated into Palo Alto? What's the historical significance?
Well, many of the things that we celebrate as the firsts of in a town's history were all celebrated here in Mayfield. Mayfield had the first school, it had the first churches, and all things like that. The town of Mayfield predates Palo Alto by a good 40 years.
Well, how could people find out more about Mayfield?
Well, we have more information, including some pictures and so forth, over at the history desk at the main library at 1213 Newell Road.
Super. Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
I'm with Jack Morton, one of our council members, and he's also chair of the Finance Committee. Jack, it's been a busy budget year. Tell me about it.
Well, we started in after tax season for me in April, and we had 2 meetings a week for the last 9-10 weeks. We talked, I think, about almost every line item on the budget. I'll say for me, since this was the first of the 2-year budget cycles that I've been through, it was like no other process I've ever been through. It was both demanding and in terms of trying to understand the questions of my colleagues, and then also challenging because governmental accounting is probably the most complicated accounting that there is, and even though I am an accountant, we have to stop momentarily to kind of sort out what the items really entail, what they involve.
So let's talk about the mid-year corrections. So basically what will happen is we've passed a 2-year budget, but at mid-year we take another look. And so if the economy goes one way, it's one thing. If it goes another way, it's another thing. So how do you see the mid-year? Mostly positive or what?
Well, my expectation is that, yes. I mean, mid-year corrections are a way in which the city kind of readjusts the budget for unknown factors. We will be entering into contract negotiations with some of the staffing unions. The first contract that's up is the fire union, and so the contract provisions, of course, aren't known now. They will be known by mid-year, and of course we have automatic adjustments in things like benefits. There are other issues, there are other things that will come up mid-year, and mid-year gives the staff a chance to inform the council of what changes have been made, both positive and negative, and then the Finance Committee will make recommendations based on the impact of those changes.
Now, there must be many ways that residents could get involved, so could you tell us something about that? So obviously the budget is of serious concern to a lot of residents.
Well, actually, this budget process probably proved without a doubt how important the budget is to most of Palo Altans. When the budget hearings are in place, many groups in the community, people, supporters of the library, supporters of the Children's Theater, most of our community programs understand that they can have an impact by coming to the Finance Committee meetings, or actually they can actually speak in oral communications before any council meetings. So there's lots of ways community input is sought. The city manager has tried to make a number of efforts to have outreaches into the community so we get direct input from people. The mayor and I met just before the final passage of the budget in Midtown to talk to residents and to sort of get their feeling. There's general concern, are we being responsible as a community? For me, to be responsible means two things. One, by charter, we're required to balance the budget, which we did. And I think by tradition in Palo Alto, our community expects that we preserve those services that we care so much about. And in Palo Alto, we have a wide range of services. Services as, for example, in the Arts Foundation helps fund arts program. The Friends of the Library helps fund the library programs. Friends of Junior Museum helps fund those programs. And we want that to continue to work. And so I think the main test of a successful budget in Palo Alto is, have we been fiscally responsible, and then have we been responsive to the community?
Well, thank you, Jack, for your perspective on the budget. Suzanne Warren is a producer for the city's Arts and Culture Division. Suzanne, I understand we've got a great summer concert series. Can you tell me something about it?
Surely. We have two series, the Twilight series and the Brown Bag series. The Twilight series is on Tuesday evenings, 6:30 to 8 p.m. at various parks in the Palo Alto area. The Brown Bag concert is on the corner of Lytton and Ramona Street in a plaza called Cogswell Plaza, and that's from noon to 1 on Thursdays.
And tell me, how long have they been going on? What kind of audiences do you get? I understand there's a lot of history here.
Right. The Twilight series has been going on about 20 years, and we get an audience anywhere from 1,000 plus on that one.
Yeah.
And the Brown Bag series is about 22 years old now, and it's 300 to 500 people, little smaller venue right downtown.
But, you know, it's such a shame because with that great history, I understand there's a problem with the budget.
Right. We're being slated for next summer to have our budget cut about 2/3, and then the following summer completely cut. So we are looking for pledges now from audience members and corporations, and if we get our quota by the end of August, we will call people at that time and hopefully reinstate everything.
And tell me, what sort of concerts are offered? And
we have a wide variety: jazz, rock, blues, just opera, everything you can think of. We try to represent.
Yeah. So for more information either about the concert series or donating,
they should call my number or look at the website to check out the all the bands performing.
great.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I'm with Fred Herman, the Chief Building Official for the City of Palo Alto. Fred, we're in the Development Center, but what's the real purpose of this?
Well, the purpose, PA, is a one-stop center for individuals, whether it be homeowners, designers, architects, to come in and process their entitlement or permit application in one location without having to run from department to department.
Well, that certainly sounds like a great advantage. So that means you have a lot of people here then.
We have approximately 32 staff members here to serve our customers. We have representatives from building inspection, planning, public works, utilities, and fire department.
So with all those people and all those departments, you must serve a lot of people coming through these doors.
Well, as you can see, it's quite an active place.
Yeah.
We serve approximately 1,800 to 2,000 customer contacts a month. So if 2 or 3 people come in to see a planner, for example, we count that as one contact. We are not trying to artificially inflate our numbers.
I'm sure you don't. And how would a developer or a homeowner get more information about the Development Center?
Well, they could stop in, or they could call the number on the screen and contact us at any time.
Okay, thank you so much, Fred.
Thank you.
Is unwanted mail filling your mailbox? Now, I'm not talking about bills. I know we'd all prefer that they don't come, but there's not much we can do about that. I'm talking more about junk mail. The unwanted mail, the solicitations and ads and catalogs for services and products that you're not really interested in. Chances are it is filling your mailbox. The average adult receives 41 pounds of junk mail annually. 44% of that is unread and thrown away immediately. So that's a lot of waste that we're creating. Americans spend over $275 million a year disposing of this unwanted junk mail. In 1991, 74,000 acres of trees were cut just to make catalogs alone. 62 million trees are cut and 25 billion gallons of water are used every year to create the junk mail in the United States alone. So those are a lot of resources being used for a product that we don't even read, we just toss. So how do you get on these mailing lists and receive all this junk mail? Well, every time that you sign up for a publication, join an organization, use your credit card to purchase a product, order online or through the mail, donate to a charity, sign up for a sweepstakes, or even fill out the change of address forms at the post office, your name is being added to a mailing list. The average adult has their name and address on 50 mailing lists. How can you get off of these mailing lists? Well, that's where I come in. The recycling program has a junk mail reduction kit to help you get your name off of these mailing lists and help keep your name off of any additional or from getting back on the old mailing lists. Just call the recycling program at 496-5910 and we'll send out this free junk mail reduction kit to you. And if you tell them you heard about this on Trash Busters, we'll also give you a cloth bag. This is Wendy Hediger reminding you to reduce, reuse, recycle, and buy recycled.
Hello, my name is Ken Gonzalez, inspector with the Palo Alto Fire Department with Captain Ken Green from Station 3. Summer's here, summer barbecues, camping trips, water sports, but also some summer hazards. Captain Green, can you tell us about some of the medical emergencies that happen during summertime?
Yes. Well, Ken, as you know, as you mentioned, come summertime, people start flocking to water sports like beaches. A lot of them have pools in their backyards. And one of the things we want to put emphasis on is water safety, especially with children, because children can disappear faster than you know. In 10 seconds' time, a child can be gone and you're looking for them. And they could fall into a pool or any bucket of water or anything of that nature. Adults start becoming impaired with drinking and things of that nature. So you just want to make sure that you keep your emphasis on safety when you're around the water, because it is fun, but you want to get home safely also. So you just want to be aware of the safety issues that comes along with water.
What about heat problems that come along in summertime, Captain Green?
Yeah, that's another big issue, is that people start getting out and doing more and more activities, and they start to exert themselves and push themselves beyond their limits, and they don't even know it sometimes, and they start feeling things like nausea, headaches, cramping, things of that nature. What their body is telling them is that they're pushing themselves too much or that they're dehydrated. So what you want to do is, if you're going to go out in the sun, make sure you hydrate yourself with plenty of water, Gatorade, things of that nature. And if your body says that you're tired, please don't exert yourself, because you can go overboard before you know it.
And 4th of July is coming up, which means fireworks. In the city of Palo Alto, we have an ordinance about safe and sane fireworks. Can you tell us about that, Captain Green?
Yes, well, what that is, it just basically says that fireworks are dangerous. We don't suggest anyone use any of the fireworks. Leave it to the professionals. Go to see fireworks shows. You don't want to use things like bottle rockets, sparklers, and things of that nature, because they can shoot up in the sky, get lodged in the dry shake roofs that we have a lot of here in the city, and they can sit there and smolder for hours, and then a fire breaks out later on. So to kind of alleviate that from happening, you just really don't use fireworks. Leave it to the professionals.
That's good suggestions. Any other suggestions about summer hazards that people go to, maybe a website?
Well, yeah, if you want any other information, you can stop by any fire station, talk to someone at the fire station. There's additional information at City Hall on the 6th floor at Fire Prevention Bureau. And one of the better websites I've seen is, I've come across this NFPA Online. They have a lot of information about the things we just touched on, as well as, any other safety information you want.
Thank you, Captain Green, and have a great summer, everyone. Safe and sane.
Hi, Ken Kremisek here at the Palo Alto Regional Water Quality Control Plant to talk about how they handle their solids. We're going to speak with Ken Torkey on this subject. We want to ask Ken, with the solids come into the plant and then they're removed, well, how does the treatment plant handle those solids, and where do they put them after they're done with them?
Well, Ken, we have two sources of solids here at the wastewater treatment plant. First of all, the primary solids. Those are the suspended materials that are in the wastewater as it arrives at the plant. The water is sent to a large tank where it's allowed to settle out, and then we take those solids and put them in another tank where they're thickened. The secondary solids are microbiological materials that are produced during the processing of the wastewater. Those solids are also allowed to settle and sent to the same tank where they're thickened. Those solids are then sent to the incinerator. We built the incinerator in the 70s when we consolidated several plants into this plant here. And we've been incinerating the solids to produce ash, about 60 tons of thickened liquid Gives us about 3.5 to 4 tons of ash each day.
So incineration, it seems like a pretty good method for handling those solids. Have you always done that? Is this the way it's always been done?
No, as a matter of fact, we used to dry our solids in beds and then landfill it. And during the 70s, like I mentioned, we started incinerating, which was a much more efficient method of reducing the volume of those solids. And we originally sent those solids off to Arizona, where they were used as a flux in a copper smelting industry. The solids were used as a flux, but they also provided gold and silver to the smelters. So they actually paid us for our ash at that time.
And you don't currently do that. So how do you handle the ash now?
Well, in the 70s and 80s, we started a pre-treatment program where we spent a lot of time dealing with industries and commercial businesses. We identified the electronics industry as a source of gold and silver, as well as the photo processing industry. When we started working with them to reduce their discharges, the amount of gold and silver also reduced in the ash, and it was no longer valuable to them. So we found a second place to put the ash. We started working with some farmers in the Central Valley, and we currently apply the ash as a phosphate source. So it's a fertilizer. It's got phosphate and micronutrients such as zinc and iron, which we apply to the soil, and it's used for growing alfalfa and oats, which are used as cattle feed, and also for pasture land.
Wonderful, and that answers the question about sustainability. So if people want to get more information about how the treatment plant operates and how they handle the ash, where would they go for that?
Well, you can refer to the information on your screen. Give us a call. We'd be happy to talk to you.
Thank you very much, Ken.
Thanks for watching CityBeat inside Palo Alto. Remember, we'd love to have your questions or comments. Be sure to send them to the email address listed at the end of the credits. See you next time.